Welcome everyone to our April 1st session of Inside Redesign. Today we're going to be talking about how inside redesign or redesign processes that are going on in the state and the continuous learning processes that are happening right now across our schools, how those two mesh together and intertwine and support each other. And today we have with us our constant host, Dr. Steve Wyckoff, and our two other guests, the renowned Ginger Lewman and Katie Perez. So with that, welcome, and Steve, I'll kick it over to you.
Pause track to play in the background when we introduce them.
I know.
Hey.
Standing ovation, So
there's a group of teachers who they call walk-up music, right? So that when you come into the classroom, they play it like boxers going into the ring. I got some walk-up music. It's good.
That's what we need.
We'll get Glenn to work on that for us. Hey, ladies, I have a question for you. We're only 3 days in the continuous learning. What are you seeing?
Well, I'm seeing
I assume you've been in communication with all the peeps. So tell us, give us a little background across districts.
We're definitely more than 3 days in because they've been doing planning too. So maybe 3 days with kids, but the teachers have been on this since even before their 5 days of professional learning have started. I mean, teachers came online fast. They came on with some grief and some nervousness, but it really took them only about 2 days to get their feet under them and say, okay, what are we going to do? So, Katie, where are you seeing people?
I see kind of the same thing. A lot of people really jumped in. I think that there was, for a lot of people, I didn't see a lot of fear in the jumping in process, at least with the schools that I've been working with within Redesign. It was kind of, okay, this is what we're doing next. Let's go. There was most people did a very slow start at first by picking just a few people to kind of roll ideas with, and then it grew and grew and grew. So I think the planning week kind of snowballed. And now that I see people within their first 3 days of being back, I think there's a calmness of, okay, we can do this. I don't know that we're doing it as well as we would like right now. There's kinks to work out. There are things to do, but we're doing it. We're okay. We're okay.
So
yeah, I'm seeing that curve too. There was some nervousness and then relaxing some.
Yeah.
So give me a percentage of the people that you're talking to, kind of a general, how many are in survival mode, get till the middle of May or the end of May and go, I can't wait for school to start. How many are actually using this opportunity to say, what would a redesigned school look like? And anything you're seeing related to those two things.
I think that I have a pretty unique point of view in the Kansas Educators Facebook group, knowing that there's only a little over 15,000 teachers in there. And what do we have in Kansas? 40,000 teachers, but it's a nice segment, cross-pollination.
15,000 of your closest friends?
Yeah, 15,300 and counting daily. We add a lot more. But I would say that based on the questions that are posted in that group, based on the things that are being shared as resources in that group, I think there are a lot of folks who we're doing this till May, and then we're back into summer, and then August we'll come back together. So I think there is a good portion of those folks, and maybe some of that's a survival just for their own mental health. Maybe that's just because I can get to there. I wouldn't say they're just surviving just to try to translate exactly what they've always done into an online thing. I wouldn't say that's the level of survival. But there are, like Katie had said, in the conversations of those who've already been redesigning, I feel that they're like 3 or 4 steps ahead of everybody else's conversations about, hey, what are the lessons we're going to take from this process? Because we're going to learn a lot here.
I would say that's true, not just of, so at the schools that we've worked with in Redesign, we've been supporting people since the Gemini 1 phase. I would say even our Apollo schools are jumping in to say, okay, so let's go. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep moving forward. So it's not like people who are kind of through that launch phase that are going, oh, we've got this. It's definitely through all 4 levels of Redesign at this point. I would say that most of what I see right now is kind of a let's get through these first couple of weeks feeling. I don't know that everybody has I think you think that a lot of us are really in that back part of our brain right now. I don't know how many people are thinking totally far into the future. I think right now it is a matter of what can we do right now that's best for our kids, and how are we going to learn from this? I don't know that there's plans being made about how we could actually transfer and continue to do something different. I think it's kind of that there's like a toe in each side of that right now. I need to survive right now to take care of the kids I teach, and I want to learn from this.
I have seen a couple of posts about people saying, so in August, September, October, if we're learning this, then we should be ready here. But those are few and far between, and they get mixed results on conversations. There are some people who say, yeah, I'm ready for that. And there are some who are like, stop, you're overwhelming us right now. And I think that's both sides of that are legitimate. Some people are ready to look a little farther.
Mike and I typically, the people that we're communicating with, and is Zoomitis a disease? Because I think I've got it from Zooming nonstop for the last, 8 days? That we're hearing from superintendents, we're hearing more discussion, and understand it's a totally different group than you're talking about. We're hearing more conversation about just send work home to do, pretty much take what they were doing before spring break and send it home, have them continue. They're not coming out and saying read the chapter, answer the questions, or just do the worksheets. But we're not hearing, Mike, am I summing up what we're hearing from superintendents?
Yeah, a lot of the things we're hearing in our little meetings with superintendents here and there is, we got our packets out, and some have even said, they're out there, they're for learning. We're not going to recollect them for a security safety issue. It's not about whether or not they don't want to see kids work. It's just they don't want to have that interaction. But so it's from packets to here's a site, go on and do these lessons. So it's really, and again, we're just getting started, but we're seeing hearing that there's a lot of take what we were doing, stick it online, away we go. I think there's some out there. The other comments I've heard is they want to do project-based learning. They want to personalize it, but they don't know how to help their teachers go from when I had them here in the classroom to now I don't have them here in the classroom, and how do I translate that? So that's really two ends of the spectrum, but we're not that, and those conversations are few and far, but it's being said, but most of it's back here we're going to take what we're doing and just flip it over to online. So now that's coming from the superintendents we've interacted with.
Totally different level than you guys deal with in terms of thinking and level in the organization, everything.
Well, I think
Ginger, you look like you were going to make a comment.
Yeah, I think that should be okay, because right now, there are teachers who have never Zoomed or have very limited experience with this. And so they're on a learning curve like this. And so to say, hey, by the way, let's now go to PBL, something that you haven't ever done before in the classroom, and now you're going to do this here, as well as rethink all the, that to me is something that will crush many teachers. And I wouldn't want to do that. I think that everybody has to have that grace and that step into the deep end process. And I have faith that it's going to come for many, many more than what would have been if we hadn't had this crisis/opportunity. And I think in a couple of 3-4 weeks, the conversation will shift again. In the midst of, in the 3 or 4 weeks, when we're starting to see some other struggles happening in our kids' and teachers' personal lives. So if they don't shift to PBL or revolutionizing education during that moment, I'm still okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that this really matches what we've seen in redesign just in general. So when I think about what we take schools through in those first few weeks, we really have them dig in and develop this why, and they do some empathy maps with kids, and they do these processes, and then they start thinking about what it is they're going to prototype and what they're going to change. And every time they start off with things, there's 2 things they start off with. Every time it's a quick win that isn't really redesign. And they usually have something on their list that is so incredibly redesign that it's not feasible yet, right? And so I think that's where we're at in this process right now, is that we all just got thrown into this mix, and it's exciting, and it's a challenge, and that's what educators do, is we always rise to these challenges, and that's awesome. So we're tackling it in that way. Okay, so what can I do right now that's a quick win? I can get some packets to my kid. I just actually put my kids over there. Over lunch, we worked on an Envision math packet for about 25 minutes together. So there, boom, packet. She's doing something, right? And then the big goal is that this shifts, and that we're really teaching online, and we're shifting to this PBL format, or we're doing something crazy with it. We've got to get those quick wins under our belts to build the confidence and trust, because none of us have done school this way before. Teachers, kids, parents, build those quick wins with the packets, and continue to ask ourselves these questions as we go along on the backside as teachers. That's what SDAC is for, right? Is to support them in having those conversations. So then we ask them, awesome, so packets are rolling. For your kids who need more, now what? For some of our families, packets are going to be enough. Packets might be too much for some of our families right now. So I think it still models and parallels the redesign process we've been going through. Quick wins, big ideas, and we just kind of bounce back and forth until we're fully over here in the big ideas.
Yeah, give me an example of one of your, a school you're aware of, or a teacher, that whatever they were doing the day before spring break was really redesigned. And when you said, what are you going to do, Monday when we start kids learning again, that they didn't, excuse me, they didn't even miss a beat. They just kept doing the same stuff. Can you give me one of those?
I think we have several that we can point to when we're talking about those who have been working in the trauma-informed process. That they've been taking care of their kids, they've been doing morning meetings with them, and so to shift over, and now we have our homerooms, our advisories. I know several schools that are doing this, and that's now our morning meeting, that's now our check-in, and that's part of our school day, our learning day. And that fits into our 3 hours. I say 3 hours because I really pay close attention to our secondary friends before I do elementary. Not that I don't love elementary. It just doesn't speak as well to my ears.
Yeah.
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 Katie, what do you see?
Well, I think that is, I think it is, I was going to say the trauma-informed piece is the people who took that shift as their number one focus within redesign have continued that. I also, a school that we did not work with closely throughout their entire redesign process is Bueller, and that's where my daughter goes to school. And so I have that kind of in my face all of the time because I follow everybody on Facebook. And they have really taken that step of, Jennifer Keller is a teacher that I can think of in Bueller who the things that she was doing in her classroom were mostly about connection. And I'm seeing that in what she's posting now. And then I can also see the content she's continuing to weave in through conversations she's having with her kids, less about the packet that she sent home, right? So that's kind of that secondary piece to keep kids occupied while mom is working from home, right? Thank God, I have that because I've got to work. But it's those who are finding new ways to help kids create a new normal. A lot of teachers I saw do a first day post where their first challenge for their kids on Monday was to set up their space in their house. So in classrooms, where we try to create a comfortable atmosphere to learn, somewhere where I'm comfortable, I've got nice seating, I've got nice lighting, I'm not distracted. So a lot of teachers, that was their first challenge, which again, we would do in redesign. We would say, let's make this room ours. How do we make this our space for learning? So I'd say it's little things that I'm seeing them do. I don't think that I see anybody yet that's just doing something earth-shatteringly awesome, because it is within a time of a crisis. So we're still getting our brains back online.
And,
Less
and
is
with Mike and I have talked a lot about this, and with the superintendents we're communicating with, let your people get their feet on the ground this week. We got a lot of people that are in just survival mode. Let's get a routine, figure something out, and then we can start changing some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I want to remind our attendees, if you have a question, you can put it in the chat. And Mike and I are probably unable to answer any questions, but Ginger and Katie certainly can. So we like to set expectations low.
Yes, we do.
We've got a lot better chance of achieving them. So,
Yes.
okay, I have two scenarios for you. I visited this morning with one of my teammates who had a doctor's appointment yesterday. And the doctor told my teammate, he said, I think educators are being very optimistic, overly optimistic, that in August we will go back to normal. He said, I don't think it will happen, especially as we flatten the curve, with coronavirus. It's going to take longer than that. What's your advice to teachers and schools if August rolls around and we're still not allowing people in buildings?
That's a reality that I have been playing in my head for a week now, and have had conversations with others about this. And I think that we plan for now that is the case, and that we look and see how can we be thinking about what does a first day of school next year look like in August under these circumstances, and do we stick with the teachers we have right now, and that kids are moving up and teachers are no longer that. This is speaking from an elementary perspective. I'm no longer a second grade teacher. I still teach this group of kids, and I work with third grade teachers, and we all just kind of come together as one to create that space and force that part of redesign, force the part of redesign where I no longer teach third grade, I teach kids, and that we all band together and do a lot of different things to support them. I don't know what that looks like. It hurts my teacher heart to think about what that looks like. It drains my parent heart to think about what that looks like. I want to talk about it. And I see, I see several of my redesign schools on the attendees list here, and let's have that conversation. Let's sit down together, let's make another Zoom meeting and talk about what does that look like. Because I don't know, but I know we can figure it out.
Yeah. Ginger?
That's what I always used to call the steam maker mindset, is I don't know everything, but I know you know things. And if we rub our brains together, we can come up with something amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's happening, I think, right now. And I think that's what's going to continue to happen. And that's what has happened in education forever. It's just that the goals were different then. And now that we've got new goals, and now we have an emergent situation that asks us to really look at those new goals as a lifeline, not just as an option, that the success of each student. Because right now, I'm hearing from teachers about kids who are coming alive in this environment.
Yeah.
That they have never produced anything up to this point, and now they're here. I don't know why. I don't know why. I can make guesses, but it's different for each kid. And there are other kids who were amazing producers in the regular classroom who I am going to assume might struggle here. It's going to ask us to really stop giving lip service to start where they are and actually start where they are. And stop talking about teaching each kid and actually start teaching each kid, not the curriculum. It's horrifying. I'm sorry, Katie, I know you're telling the truth when you say it hurts your heart, but I'm the crazy girl that says, oh my God, finally, finally, we're going to start doing the things that we've said we wanted to do because we have no other option, because we can't spend another year waiting, idling, surviving, you know? Sure, all kids are in the same boat right now, but that doesn't mean that we need to just put pause, because time is ticking, and we will eventually have a vaccine, and we will eventually be out of this. So what's our opportunity to leap forward? That's super exciting. I have thoughts. Katie, you say you don't know. Of course I have thoughts, but those are my thoughts in my head that don't fit everybody else's environment and their teachers and their kids.
Well, share them.
Thoughts? Thoughts is that we have broken the factory model of education right now. We are no longer producing kids with curriculum. We're now looking at the small artisan style, the 1-to-1, the 1-to-20, the 1-to-15, the 1-to-4 ratio of educator to kids. Let's take advantage of that. We're no longer in the Ford factory model of the long hallway and everybody's being treated the same way and the same curriculum on the same page at the same time, like all kids are the same. I mean, you asked me to start giving my opinions. I started realizing I'm doing that. There are so many opportunities to now look at kids and what they want, what they need, and finding ways to deliver that to them. Not for passing tests, because that's off our radar right now. That's not something that can be done with fidelity back the way we got to be standing over them and making sure nobody's cheated and nobody's cool. Now, what do our assessments look like if cheating is now off the table, right? What can we give them? What can we measure? What can we look at in terms of performance that is uncheatable, that is ungoogleable? Because if they can Google it, then now your question is moot, because they can Google it.
Yeah.
So
when I think about, well, I was just thinking, that there's a great opportunity here. One thing that, the four of us have kind of rubbed against for a while is our different opinions on where standards lie within education. I am probably more pro standard than anybody else in this room right now, because I believe so heavily in the practice standards of things. And so what a great opportunity now to actually move the content standard pieces, all the factoids, all of that stuff to the side, so that we are giving kids opportunities to learn something. And if I just focused on those 8 things that we want kids to be able to know and do, I think that we can teach this way, with limited resources, with limited internet, with limited access to being in the world physically together. It's going to take a big shift. I think it's a big important shift that we've been trying to make it through PBL for several years. It just looks different because I have to change what my outcome was. My outcome used to be what that standard. The kids know this, instead of they're able to think and do this way. It does give us a forced reason and need to do that.
And if we're
one of the things,
we're unsiloing
time
and content, right? These are things now that we can do. That moving physically between one classroom to another classroom based on what I'm ready for, and time is different now than it was, because now we're not in such a super regulated schedule. Now kids can get what they want and they need without being stigmatized socially. And why do you have that kid in here?
So I just had this thought go through my brain. I wonder how many kids are sitting at home saying, "Hey Google, who was Christopher Columbus?"
Well,
so I'm getting a summary from Wikipedia. Hey Google, stop. Yeah, that would have made my life so much easier.
So that's the thought that's been going through my head is this a forced redesign of the entire system where we basically now blown it up and we're starting to rebuild, and is age, time, and content going to become three of those wall-bearing factors that are going to be discarded? Because Katie, you have a wonderful little daughter who is crazier than a pet loon, but she's going to learn things at a pace that is much different than the other kid, who's much different than the other kid. And pretty soon you've got pacing now becomes a more critical factor, I guess. More critical. I've always thought it was a critical factor. We don't have all of the fluff going on. Ginger, you talked about passing from room to room. There's no more of that. Do we see this whole thing, for lack of a better way of saying it, speeding up for the kids? In other words, in the current model, a 13-year career in formal education, you went from here to here, and some got there, some didn't, some went beyond, but somewhere in this area, everybody had landed. Will we see that completely disintegrate? And I think there's an opportunity here for that. The agrarian calendar may now become something that's more easily done away with, I guess.
Yeah,
it's going to be interesting.
Maybe not.
yeah.
I mean,
Well,
we
and
don't have to do that.
and maybe we want to. I mean, like, I think the opportunity we have now is to say, it's, and we have the ability to say this in every area of our life right now, is life has slowed down. We have more time to think about what we are doing and why we're doing what we're doing. And when we return to whatever the new normal is after this, what are we going to choose to continue to do? And if we're not intentional in what we choose to put back onto our plates when when the world recovers from this time, then we've missed the learning opportunity here. And so I don't know that we have any answers today. I think that it is taking notes and just, what do we like about what's happening right now? What are kids getting and what are they needing? I can see that right now we have set a schedule here at our house with things that Sadie is passionate about doing, that I don't see summer being an issue anymore. Like, what are we going to do this summer? We'll probably continue to do what we're doing right now. Why? Because she's doing things that she really likes already, and we're only a few days in. I can't imagine telling her, okay, it's May 15th, time to stop that YouTube channel you just started. Wait, what? Why would I do that? Right?
So
So I think it can change our system. What I would be interested to see is, how do we decide then, if there's a new normal, how do we decide where kids go when they return to school next year? That is an interesting thing. Will grade levels be something different once kids return, because they will be coming in at such different places? Is it malpractice for my kid to be in just the next class because that's where she needs to be age-wise, if realistically she could move up, or needs to go back down depending on what she was able to get during this time?
Well, and how would we know?
How would
Because
we
in
know?
how we would know is, what we would do is we would go to the filing cabinet and we would say, this is how we assess whether kids are ready or not. And because we were only doing 30, 45, 93 hours a day, then no, your kid's not ready. Whew, collective sigh, let's just go back to normal. And we can choose that decision, or we can slow down even more. I don't know, that curve's going to be interesting, because we do have to start school, and we got to start somewhere. We're going to start with what we know, if we're allowed back in.
So
Yeah, I almost think that not starting back in August would be one of the greatest things that could happen if we want to continue this change, right? If we couldn't go back till October, then we have to be done. We have to already have started a school year. We have to pick up in the middle of something. I mean, at least that's my brain. I've only been in education my entire life, right? So from age 5 to now, I have lived on an August to August schedule. And so October sounds weird to me, right? I couldn't start with my first day activities in October. I'd have to change my calendar.
So I wonder how many teachers, after, whatever day in May is their last day of school, formally, I wonder how many will still have kids communicating with them because they're authentically engaged.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't that be interesting data?
And
You
Katie,
know,
I want to push back on Katie a little bit because you're an amazing teacher to start with. And then you've got a daughter who's really lucky. She might not think so, but welcome to daughterhood. That she's got a great teacher for a mom who can be there and support her. We got kids who, unless the teacher right now, the teacher on record is stepping up for that kid because the parent at home is not a teacher or is not there or is not, we've got kids who are falling behind because of equity issues. And so I'm not saying that that's wrong. We as teachers of note need to step up right now.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that we would have to look at for grade levels is um, that child just came in and is refashioning some Barbie clothes and needs better scissors. So they would need to be able to decide, like, within that individual child, what are we doing to meet their needs right now, meet them where they truly are right now. And there might be kids, I don't know, because I feel like I'm saying these things, I don't know how I feel about all of them quite yet. But how could we, these scissors aren't going to work, sorry. How could we say that my child right now is going to continue to move forward because she has this at home and this one isn't, and I'm okay with someone else getting some extra time with their teacher because that's what that kid needs. And so it becomes more about equity rather than that equal, we all get the same thing piece there. And when they return to school, the same thing happens.
Okay, but wouldn't your daughter, who's a little further down the road, wouldn't she deserve extra time with that other teacher?
Yes.
See, I think the equity starts to look really flattened when we start looking at what each kid needs and stop rewarding kids as being super smart because you were further. Oh, that's amazing. No, it's just what you can do. It's not about you, your worth. It's just about where you are.
Yes. Does my
And
kid
we'll move you where
deserve
you're ready for
the
next.
extra time? Yes, those kids deserve the extra time in a way that the system can afford right now. And so as we build capacity in that system, I think it will develop to where that is. What she also deserves is to be given credit for the learning she's doing on her own right now that's developing her skill set as a learner. We have a ton of kids out there, and many, many, many will be at the secondary level, to where they are doing things right now that they would have never had the experience or the time to do in school. And so how do we give them credit for the learning that they are truly doing right now? How do we measure that? How do we look at, again, going back to practice standards and looking at those things and saying, can they do these things that allow them to know how to learn and exist in the real world? Forget the content. Are they learners now?
so let's look at the other end of that scenario. What do you want to caution people about if we do come back in August and the buildings are open and there are no restrictions? What are the cautions? Go ahead, Ginger.
Go slow.
Mm.
Go slow. Don't policy anything yet. Slow it down, breathe through, start working through our new normal, and to think what's working now, and let's prototype, let's try some things out again. It's still that redesign process of the design process that can really help us through that, and to make good decisions that are deep with families' input, because right now things are happening in the class or in the new classrooms, the kids' homes, that we don't see. Even if we're connecting through Zoom, we're not seeing that. And parents will have a much richer perspective to offer about their kids' education. Let's listen.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be both directions. The parents will have a much richer perspective on the kids' education. I think the teachers will also have a much richer perspective on the family perspective, because some of our teachers, Katie, with children at home, that is quite the workload. I mean, you're balancing both, and truly less is more. And I think we're going to see. It'll be real interesting when we start back up. And I agree with you, Ginger. We're going to have to slow down and say, what did we learn? How do we modify and create the new norm? So, yeah.
I know we say less is more, and I know why we say it, but I want us to eventually, me here in these pants, nobody else gets to make this decision, I guess. I want us to start thinking about better is more.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah. Okay.
And I like the conversation focused on what can a child do, because if they can do something with the learning, that's where it really, the rubber meets the road. And it's going to really change our whole thinking about assessment. And maybe we're taking a big giant step back to the natural laws of learning that we were born with, that we did it because we had curiosity and we had a desire to just go there, and we figured out what it took to get it done and to do it again, versus just for the sake of doing, sake of having the right answer for a quiz show or something.
Yeah, you know, what's interesting is that with the work that I do with Career and Tech Ed, we always talk about what does a kid need to know, be able to do, and be like. Think about those for teachers this week. What do they need to know that's different? What do they need to do that's different? And what do they need to be like that's different? And no wonder they're feeling challenged this week.
The teachers I see who are struggling the most, or at least lamenting the most, are those who are really handcuffed with federal laws, you know, special education teachers.
Yeah.
And that they really care about their kids, and they have so many masters to feed to make sure that they're not accidentally hurting kids in the process, that my heart breaks for special education, because I think the teachers know intrinsically what to do for the kids, but they're serving so many masters with so many rules and so many rulers. Yep. That it almost makes it impossible to help the kids.
Yeah.
You know, one of the strange things I've watched at the state level trickle back up to the federal level and then back down is this whole notion of school serving meals. Well, there are so many regulations around the hot lunch program, if you will. And it was amazing to watch all of those regulations be modified just instant. I mean, from the local level all the way to the feds and back down. I mean, the feds did away with stuff overnight, literally overnight. So it makes me wonder, are we going to learn something in this, that a lot of these regs that we've had to follow were really just bureaucratic fluff that maybe we really don't need them? And maybe, just maybe, if we would take it off and let the local people make those decisions, what's best for children, we don't need all of those handcuffs. Because I'm with you, Ginger. The folks that have to live under federal regulations like special ed, CTE, Perkins, all of those things are just oppressive right now because they can't move. There's no wiggle room. And we have a new norm that needs a lot of grace, forgiveness, and wiggle room.
And you know how we always put one finger out, four more are pointing back toward us?
Yeah.
So that's federal bureaucracy. Let's recognize the bureaucracy that we have built ourselves in our own local systems,
Yes.
as well as our own schools, as well as our own classroom policies, things that we've said you can't do. How do we hold our own scissors to our own red tape?
I agree.
You know, I have to tell you, now, ladies, you're not old enough to remember this, but way back in the 80s, I was actually on what was called the Outcomes Accreditation Task Force. And Max Heim chaired that. Max is John Heim's dad. And he's been raising goats on the farm for years. He's been retired so long. But it was the precursor to QPA. But the whole discussion was, when we say outcomes accreditation, we were talking about accrediting schools, but the discussion was, how do we look at outcomes instead of all the inputs? And I find it interesting, we're really focusing on outcomes for our kids today, this week already, because we don't have control of all the inputs. We don't control all the conditions. We're just saying, are they getting what they need to be successful? And it's only taken 30 years to make that happen. That's not bad in education.
It's really not.
That's fairly rapid change for schools. Hey, we've been going for 40 minutes, but we cannot leave this discussion. And Ginger, you're going to tell me I forgot to change out my slide when I get to it. But I want to keep every time reminding people we need an intense focus on the success of each student. And even today, this is really the important one. I think you guys have been talking about this. How do we make sure every kid is getting what they need? Okay, the Kansans Can Vision is about the success of each kid. That's what redesign is about. Okay, our 5 goals. Well, we're really not doing much with kindergarten readiness right now, but the social emotional is so important. You hit that right off the bat. The individual plan of study based on career interest. I worry when I see packets go home in secondary classes, schools, that every kid's doing exactly the same thing. I think we have an opportunity here to do some different things. Graduation has been an interesting conversation. All the groups Mike and I have talked to on superintendents, how do we make sure our kids that are seniors get what they need and graduate? That's been a surprising focus. Mike, your comment on that?
Yeah, no, I echo the same thing. It has been in nearly every conversation for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of questions around it, and many boards of education are taking upon themselves to go back to the minimum required by the state, and then allowing the superintendent and administrators to help the teachers get to that point and help the students get there. So
the one I kind of, excuse me, Mike, go ahead.
No, it's just it's a acute issue right now.
We're still trying to hit this stuff, the 5 parts of the definition minus the civic engagement. That's been a little trickier. It's doable, but it's a little trickier when it's hard to be out in the community. Ginger, here's the slide I forgot to change. It is not the latest version, and I apologize up front, but so much of this can still be accomplished. And in fact, I suspect that socially and emotionally, we have some group of kids that are actually prospering more this week. Now, I also worry about those kids that aren't, that are struggling now because they're not being able to come to school on the social emotional side. We absolutely have choice over time, place, and pace. I hope that every kid's not being forced down the same path. I hope our redesign schools are working on that. Ginger, or Katie, comments on that?
Yeah, I think that we have that opportunity to keep that more open, particularly at the secondary level. But I know that all teachers are trying to get their pieces in for kids, and I see a lot of schedules coming up.
Yeah. Katie, I'm sorry, go ahead. Did you have comments?
No, that's good.
Okay. Community partnerships and real world application. I think the real world application, this is a great opportunity to do that because it's like you said, it's no more just remembering the facts. we are going to be somewhat limited getting out. We're going to be very limited getting out in the community. So, we always want to touch base on that. But the other thing that has become clear to me as we've been talking with people is, let me pull up this real quickly for you, that we're having a lot of comments from folks that resistance and reluctance is how I phrased it. And we believe there's two parts to that. I don't know what to do, and I don't think it will make a difference. When we talk about the can vision, there's two parts. Don't know what to do. I don't know if it'll make a difference. I don't think it will. Okay, that's one quadrant there. The second one is I don't know what to do. Excuse me. I don't know what to do, but I think it will make a difference. This is a training problem. C up here is, I know what to do, but I don't think it'll make a difference. But we've got to get everyone here. I know what to do, and I think it will make a difference. It's the right thing to do. And we're hearing more comments. I think it's become more obvious, the I don't know what to do. Sometimes it manifests itself in, I don't think it's the right thing to do. Your comments, ladies.
I love using this quadrant sort, and we use it for so many different things. I think recognizing that we don't all have to be, yes, it would be amazing if we could all get ourselves up into that D quadrant there, where we know what to do and believe it's the right thing and really believe it'll make a difference. And it's okay if you're not there yet. It's okay right now to say, I don't know what to do, and I don't think that's going to make a difference, and recognize that that's fear, and that too can be overcome. And so not pointing fingers and blame and getting angry and dividing our faculties and our communities right now over this. If you have a colleague who right now says, I don't know what to do, I think this is the right thing, I don't know what to do, have those conversations. If I know what to do, I don't think it's going to make a difference, have those conversations of success and share things with each other. We need each other more than ever right now. A phrase that I have picked up from a very, very wise person is that we may have to be socially distanced right now, but we are not relationally separated. And I think that's huge.
Well,
we have to, yes, I cannot physically be in the same space as you, but I need that relationship more than ever. And it's going to take a team effort to get us to all move into a space where we know what to do and how to do it and believe it's right. Honor what you're fearing and angry about right now, and then support each other to get into a better spot.
Ginger?
No.
I got nothing to add to that. Thank you, Katie. Mic drop.
That was a tough act to follow.
Yeah, that was well said, Katie.
Way to make it hard for all of us.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. Hey, Steve, I thought we set that bar low when we started this.
Well, it's for us.
Oh, it's for us. Okay.
I always talk before Katie because otherwise I don't have anything to say.
Oh, whatever. We filmed for an hour and a half the other day. We know that's not true.
Okay, so let's bring this thing in for a landing. Ginger, I'll let you speak first. What's become clear to you about all of this?
I think that we have several avenues and several mileposts that we will be crossing because of time, that we can make a variety of choices. When we get to that milepost, there will be at least 2, if not more, options for us to take our people. And when I say our people, I'm talking to administrators, I'm talking to parents, I'm talking to teachers, and I'm talking to older brothers and sisters. Is that when we get to that milestone of we're 2 or 3 weeks into this right now, and now this is happening in the world. What are we going to do? How are we going to respond to the kids in front of us? In May, what are we going to do? How are we going to respond to the kids in front of us? In August, what are we going to do? how are we gonna, okay, August, in October. And I think that where we as a state, where we as a system ends up really depends on the questions and the curiosity and the lenses we're looking through as the questions are being asked to us. As we hear and see the person who's asking the questions, if we're making assumptions or if we're being curious, if we're responding to what we're seeing or if we're responding to the person, because those are different things too. And I think we have a good chance to do big things if we believe that it's the right thing, even if not everybody else is doing it.
Right.
Katie, what's become clear to you?
I feel like I've said this in the last couple of Zoom recordings that I've done, and I'm just going to stick with it. There has never been a more exciting time to be an educator, and there's definitely never been a better time to work in Kansas. I'm blown away at the way communities are continuing to strive for redesigning and doing what's best for kids. And I really am very grateful to be an educator right now. And I look forward to seeing what comes of this. What are we going to do to really change the world of education?
Yeah. Dr. Cook, what's become clear to you? You get the final word.
Well, what's really become clear is what I've always known for a long time. These two ladies are amazing. They bring to the table a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of great tips and tricks and practices for our teachers. I'm so proud of having them at ASDAC and having them on this to share ideas with the audience out there. So very grateful for that. What's become clear to me in all of this is we have a tremendous amount of opportunity, and we can either wallow in the mud pit and say, oh, woe is me, and wring our hands, or we can make a choice at one of these mileposts and say, we're going this way or that way. And I think we choose to go up and beyond. So I know we're going to get there. I know it's going to be cool and really great on the other side of this. And maybe we're already starting on the other side, So it's a great opportunity. It's not going to come without bumps, but it's a great opportunity. And I just want to thank them again, Ginger, Katie, thank you for being on Inside Redesign with us, and look forward to all the other great work you're doing.
Hey, listen, we're going to have Stacy look at your calendars. We'd love to have you back in 2 weeks so we can go, okay, what's happened in the next 2 weeks?
Yep.
Let's update. What do we see and what do we wish we were seeing kind of stuff? So hopefully Stacy is on listening to this, so she will hopefully take care of that. Understanding, man, if your schedules are like ours, that there's no such thing as planning long term.
No.
Right now, it's like, what are you doing tomorrow kind of stuff. So,
Yeah.
Okay, ladies, thank you very much for
Thank
joining.
you very much.
We really
Thanks for having
appreciate
us.
it. And thank you everybody for listening in. And we'll be back in 2 weeks. That would make it the 15th. Hey, we didn't even have any April Fool's jokes today.
No.
What were
Oh.
we thinking?
Well, what was going on?
Okay, well, thank you everyone for joining us, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Great. Thank you, everybody.